Hello, and welcome to the Trident Talks podcast, the series where we speak to cyber leaders about key topics in the industry. Today, I'm joined by Michael Farnum, advisory CISO, founder of Hou.Sec.Con, which is their leading cybersecurity event in Texas, one which I was actually lucky enough to go to last month, and US Army veteran as well. Michael. Firstly, thank you for taking the time to speak with me today and share some of your thoughts and ideas. Perhaps you could start with a brief introduction of yourself and maybe Hou.Sec.Con as well as an event.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Ross. Really appreciate it. It was good to meet you and a lot of your team out at Hou.Sec.Con. That's been just over a month ago. I can't believe it.
Yep.
I'm advisory CISO for my day job's good company called Trace3. It's a IT and cybersecurity integrator reseller company. So my whole role is to do just what it sounds like, to help our customers kind of with the CISO level thinking what they're trying to do with their plans and programs, put those together. I've been in the industry either in IT or cyber since 94. So I've been doing this a while, seen a lot of different things. Hou.Sec.Con kind of came out when I transitioned into a full-time cyber role back in the very late or early 2000s. Back then it was called information security. It was still not even really a actual career path that most people even knew was a thing yet. I went out and got some certifications in that and started going to conferences and started seeing that there was a severe lack of local conferences, and those local conferences that were there were generally very, very vendor focused, where they just had a bunch of sales pitches and things like that. So I decided to I kind of got the bug because there was another little local conference that actually wasn't like that, but it wasn't doing that well. And I got lucky enough to be on the planning committee for that and worked on that conference and did a user group locally and really got the bug to start a conference and had a couple of friends that wanted to join in. And so we put it together back in 2010, really with the idea of trying to bring it, create something of an in-between if your audience is familiar with a DEF CON and Black Hat type of conferences, kind of an in-between that, where not a pure HackerCon, not a pure conference, we're just with presentations and, those kind of things. We wanted to have somewhere in between. And we started in the local Microsoft offices. They were nice enough to let us start that back in 2010 there. We had about 120 people. And this last year, as you saw, we were upwards of 1,200 folks that came out, starting to make a play as a national conference as well. It's not just a local regional conference. We've got several people. And then heck, it's international with you guys out there, since we had people coming from across the pond, which was fantastic. So that's the long and short of it.
Yeah, no, I'd say it is absolutely is international. We flew over. Our trip to the US was just for the event. Our trip was based around the event. So yeah, your marketing team are doing a good job, or at least it was through word of mouth. It was just speaking to professionals about good events to come out and attend, and it just was one that just kept popping up. So it's certainly got a good reputation and presence, which is glad to report. So as you know, we're a veteran-owned organization. We're very passionate about supporting the military community in cyber. A lot of our candidates are ex-military, as indeed you are, of course. So perhaps you could just give us a brief overview of your time in the military and how you found the transition into cyber and then into ultimately a leadership role, a senior role like you're in now.
Yeah. So like a lot, I don't know if this is the same in the UK, in the US. A lot of people, and I don't think this is a bad thing, a lot of people go into the military for the benefits of be able to go to college, get college paid for. So in The year I graduated in 1990 out of high school, but 89 I signed up what we called the delayed entry program over here because I knew I wanted to get into the military and use that for some college benefits. So in 1990, I went in full time into basic training here as a military occupancy specialty MOS of 19 kilo, which was a tanker. So I wasn't doing anything highly technical, right? I mean, the closest I would come to being cyber at that time was we had encryption devices on the radios, that we needed to encrypt the streams over.
Yeah, we have that.
So I was on the executive officer's tank, so I had to take care of that because we were the company or the hub for the company communications across everything. So I really knew a lot of stuff that was going on with the brigade and upwards of further up the ladder. So I would have to deal with it, but I really didn't know what that was. I was just what we call a DAT over here, which is, and hopefully you don't have to bleep this out, a dumbass tanker is what they call us back then. So wasn't doing anything super sophisticated. But what did happen was that right after I went into basic training, Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait and everything happened. And I ended up going to Desert Storm, Desert Shield, and dealt with everything that was going on there for a few months. Then finished up, just did 2 years of regular military service here. But I think if you have a military or a combat MOS, you're able to do just 2 years instead of a full 4 years. So did that, got out, served in the National Guard for 5 years after that in a local unit in combat engineers and then communications. So that's where I started getting a little more technical. I always had that technical bent. Like when I was in high school in backwoods Mississippi, here in the U.S., I was the only kid that I knew of that had a computer, right? So I was always kind of geeky there and wanted to get into that stuff. I just used the military for the transition into, but I absolutely wanted to serve my country. I mean, that meant a lot to me, but it was also a means to an end for another career. I never saw myself as a career military person, and I really greatly admire the people who do. I just don't think I could deal with that level of discipline throughout my whole life. I did that for a couple of years in the National Guard for 5 years, and then got out and was already in computers, started in that computers in like I said, back in 94, and used that time to kind of serve my country and then start making that transition into a regular civilian world, into IT and the cyber, with some of the training that I got in the National Guard specifically, because that was where a lot of my computer training came up. That was when the military was starting to transition a lot to tracking. They learned a lot from friendly fire issues that happened over Desert Shield, Desert Storm, and they started putting the tracking on and I'm not up to speed on how they do that with modern day battlefields. I know it's a lot more sophisticated now, but that's kind of when they started, was in those 90s. And I had a lot of training in those systems in Fort Hood here in Texas, and really enjoyed seeing that and saw the first forays that they were making into that. So I got a lot of training there, but the cyber part just came really from a passion of technology, and always been a technologist, and started making that transition. And just honestly, I think like a lot of people in careers, they don't always have everything planned out. I didn't know exactly where I was going to be. I honestly thought I would end up being a practitioner for the rest of my life, and did that for the most of my career, and then transitioned into the reseller world and the advisory world back in about 2007. And that's kind of where I've made this transition and this move into being like a chief technology officer and an advisory CISO, where I can help a lot of people versus just helping one organization. So,
excellent. Yeah, thank you for that. And thank you for your service as well. Michael. I think there's a bit of a belief that we often come across when we do speak to currently serving members, for example, that they have to be part of to move into cybersecurity which is seen as a very, very technical space. They have to be part of a technical area within the military, but working in intelligence or in signals. But it's good to hear your views that that's not necessarily the case. Look, thank you for that. You've recently started a foundation, which you gave me a bit of an overview of in Houston, and is advertised as part of the event whilst we're out there. Is it the TAB Foundation? Could you just give us a bit more of an overview of that foundation, what it is, and why you started it?
Absolutely. So we call it the TAB Cyber Foundation. TAB stands for Taylor Austin Broussard. So we have I have a mutual friend that I work with on a daily basis. His son years ago tragically passed away in a car accident, but before that he was transitioning out of high school. wasn't really college bound. That wasn't for him, but he wanted to get into cyber. So he started thinking through how to do that through the route of certifications, trying to get experience that way and get his foot into the doors through the certification route. And so Dan Broussard, his father, started that foundation, was really looking for a place to put it where we could start getting some activity out of it. And the whole goal was to help young people who were underprivileged and to help veterans who were trying to come out of either a career or just, not knowing where to go after a few years served, but did not necessarily want to go into the higher education route, maybe didn't have the funds for that, or maybe that's just not the way their brain worked. There's a lot of people who don't go that higher education route. So that's why he started that. And that's where we just kind of had a perfect vehicle with Hou.Sec.Con, because we already had 501c3 for your UK followers. That's the charitable status over here at the federal level. We're a nonprofit 501c3 corporation. So that was just kind of the perfect vehicle. So we started that up earlier this year, have really got it formalized this year as the TAB Cyber Foundation. And again, the whole goal is to help, right now, Texas-based, but we'll expand any underprivileged youth in the area and veterans who are just trying to make their way into the cyber world through certifications. And what we do is we take applications. We're actively taking those now for anybody who wants to try to get one of those. You can call them scholarships or grants. I know there's some technical terms there, and they can apply for those and apply for the money. And then we have certain certification routes they can go, and then we'll pay for the training, pay for the tests, and, start giving them a path forward, hopefully helping them make that transition into cyber. We all know we need more people in this world, in the cyber world. And I think this is a way to do it and give young people and veterans the opportunity to make it in here.
Yeah, no, look, I totally agree. And look, thank you for that. It sounds like a really excellent initiative. Who is eligible for the foundation? So generally, if you're not a veteran, if you're a young person who's just coming out of high school, we generally want you to be younger than 25 years old. And anybody in that group is eligible. We don't really, again, we're not trying to steer people away from higher education. We're just saying if that's not the route you want to go, then if you have a formal education, you already kind of have a leg up. So we're trying to give people who don't have that formal college education younger than 25. If you're a veteran, we don't care about your age as long as you are you have served and you've been discharged honorably. We want to maintain the honorable discharge level, and we don't really care about age at that point. You can have some college. I mean, a lot of people come out of the military with some college. That's not a big deal, but we just
want to leave that open to anybody who's got a veteran status there. So nothing extremely strict. There is an application process. We ask for some paperwork to prove that stuff out, and then we just want to get some background on those individuals. So because again, like every foundation like this, we don't have unlimited funds, so we do choose through that application process who we're going to give it to. But just about anybody in those two categories are going to be eligible to apply for it.
Okay. Yep, sounds good. What kind of courses do you run? It can be, obviously, are they mostly kind of foundational courses to build up the early stage of your kind of cyber career? Because it can be confusing, can't it? If you're not in cyber, there's a huge amount of acronyms. I still get confused about all the courses and certifications that are out there. So yeah, which kind of courses do you run, and what's the kind of main focus of them?
So they are foundational courses is what we're really looking for, people who don't have a whole lot of experience. We're not trying to get somebody their CISSP or, their certified CISO. We're looking for people who are trying to enter in. They may have some background. It may be an easier certification for them. We're completely fine with that, especially if they've got some level of technical acumen that would make it easier for them to take it. But generally, it's going to be foundational. So we're talking like Security Plus type stuff, which the CompTIA Security Plus is a little more difficult than many people think. I took it sight unseen years ago and was actually impressed by the difficulty of it, but it does give you a good security-based knowledge. We even let people go take the CCNA from Cisco, because that, even though it's not security focused, I do believe having a good base knowledge and networking is important. I'm that old school guy who came from the networking side, didn't start in security. We're working with another group. I don't want to announce it yet because we haven't formalized the relationship yet, but there is a group that is doing some very foundational style of training and have some certification levels that we're talking to as well to get some training there as well. The training from our perspective is really up to the individual how they want to approach it. We kind of ask in the application process, do you want to go do self-training on your own by getting books and those kinds of things and then passing it? Or do you want to go through a formal, like some type of training? We're going to evolve over time as to how we offer that training to them, and again, we'll partner with some training providers to help them. I don't want to announce that as it's forthcoming, but we do have some movement in that space to help formalize that and give them some training and give them a really good path to go forward. But we didn't want to get all of that in place until we had some applicants ready to go for it. So
yeah. Okay, excellent. Look, thank you. Thanks very much for that. Do you have any more? I mean, it sounds like a great foundation for people to get involved with. Leaving the military, a great way to get into cyber from the military. Do you have, as someone that's done that journey, albeit a few years ago, do you what not too many years ago, of course. What advice, or do you have any more generalist advice for people that maybe won't be able to get involved in the foundation, or is there any general advice you have for people that have either start the early stages in their journey into cyber or are thinking about moving into cyber from the military?
The general advice is know that you're going to have to start generally at a lower level. Now, there's one thing I would say, and I don't think a lot of people see this, and again, not talking from the foundation perspective. If you're an officer and you're trying to get into, or even a non-commissioned officer, and you've got a lot of that leadership training, you've actually got a leg up on a lot of things in cybersecurity, because you need that organizational mindset. And you don't always, I think this is general knowledge for anybody, you don't have to be technical coming into cybersecurity. If you've got an organizational mindset, you've had that training and leadership and that organizational training that the military a lot of times do, especially for officers. You can go into governance, risk, and compliance and really just start learning the basic types of security infrastructure and security frameworks. And you can get an entry into that and start doing auditing type of work and really helping get assessments done.
Yeah,
That's always a good path forward if you don't want to start right in the technical. If you do have some of that technical acumen and you want to get into that, my advice is to go out on it. It sounds cliche, but go out on a YouTube, go out on a Udemy. I mean, start looking at some of those courses that are cheap or free and start just getting a basic level of knowledge about those things. And you'll get plenty of advice on how to get into actual technical fields, and you'll get some actual real training on those. There's a lot of free resources out there that people don't take advantage of, are extremely cheap resources. Start doing that, and then start thinking about if you're going to do technical stuff. If you've got some funds to do it, get an Azure or AWS or GCP account and start playing in the cloud and look at courses around that, because that's the way forward. That's what people are going to be deploying in the next few years. If you can build your own account and build your own little environment, you'll learn a ton within a month. It'll be amazing how much you've learned. So those are little things. There's obviously a lot more, but just looking at alternative ways of doing things and not just technical. And then if you do want to do technical, start building your own little lab and getting some of those free resources on training.
Excellent. Cool. Well, thank you again for your time. It was great talking to you, and we're honoured to have you on the podcast. Thanks to those who have listened as well. Be sure to subscribe and follow the Trident Talks podcast, as well as check out our LinkedIn as well. We post a lot of stuff there. Thanks, and see you next time.
Thanks, Ross.